$85,179. That's what many of you in this room are missing. But today we're going to get that back. I'm Chris Hondel. I'm a sales coach. Once upon a time, though, I was a high school wrestler. Now, I wasn't a very good high school wrestler. I remember my first match. After I got pinned very quickly, I went to the side, and my coach, he said, "How many lights are on the ceiling?" And I said, "Huh?" Because I was on my back. Now, in high school wrestling, though, my last year, I really wanted to be varsity. And the way that it worked was every Thursday, you would wrestle off with everybody in your weight class, and whoever won would represent varsity in the tournament for the duel or the meet that weekend. And it was my last year, and I was getting a little worried because I got beat by the same guy every single week. And this was bothersome because I had to be varsity. Because if you were varsity, you got the letter. If you got the letter, you got to put it on the jacket, and if you got the jacket, you got the girl, and that's all I cared about in high school. So I had to beat him, but it wasn't just that he beat me. He beat me the same way every single time. He beat me with this move called the butcher. Now the butcher is this move where basically he would take my own arm, wrap it around my neck, and choke me with my own arm. Now, this guy that beat me, he was my best friend, still my best friend to this day, and he was farm boy tough. I grew up on the farm too, but he did more chores than me because he just had these arms, these massive arms. So when he wrapped my arm around my neck and I can't breathe and I got drool coming out the side of my face, you become very willing to be pinned and you can't get out of that. So I was worried about not being varsity, and I went to my coach, Coach Lerbakken, and I said, "Coach, he beats me with the butcher every single week. How do I get out of the butcher?" And Coach Lerbakken, he looked around and he motioned to me, saying, "Come here." I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is going to be good." And he leans into me and he says, "You don't get in the butcher." So, oh, Coach, I know that. What the heck? Like, I know that. But he was right. Once I was in the butcher, there's nothing you're going to do about that. You ain't getting out of the butcher. You're choking on your own spit. You ain't getting out. So today, we're going to dive into the core four of coaching, and we're going to talk about how do we capture that $3 million that we're losing because we are currently in the butcher. Now, let me tell you a different version of this story. Years ago, I created what I call the Objection Boot Camp, right? This became very popular, and in my coaching, I would go out to companies, and I would do this Objection Boot Camp, because companies would reach out to me, and they would say, "Hey, we need help with objections. Help us with objections." And so I would go out there, and often what I would find, though, was it wasn't objections that was the problem. As I would ride along, as I would dig into these objections, I would find we had a very poor process. And so with this poor process, it put us up into a situation where we had lots of objections. Very similar to the butcher. And when you're in the butcher, you can't get out of the butcher.